Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Deborah Cameron, and I'm delighted to have you back with me today as we discuss the last of the few videos for the Warrior Maiden series. Now, today we're going to be addressing the inner child. This is the way I'd like you to perhaps consider this process of the Warrior Maiden and now the inner child. With the Warrior Maiden, we were looking at the concept of division, or perhaps more dominance in one aspect of self rather than the other. Perhaps a more dominant warrior, less dominant maiden, or vice versa. In this scenario, we are looking at division. We're looking at the division between the two because ultimately the goal is unification. The bringing together of the masculine feminine is discussed in the intro to the Warrior Maiden. And so the missing component here is that inner child. Now, over my 21 years of clinical experience and working with countless people on this model as a part of my emotional blueprint program, I have discovered that the wounded inner child largely is residing within the heart. The wound of our past, the wound that perhaps is not healed as of yet, the wound that keeps recurring over and over and over again, perhaps representing, for instance, loss. That at the time of separation of the warrior maiden and inner child, there can be this feeling of feeling lost, feeling like life has you by the tail, so to speak. That there's a part of you that deep inside you know you haven't discovered, perhaps. But oftentimes when we have the age-old concept of the trigger happen, where someone triggers us, we often will go into this wound that the child is holding, the inner child. That wound is painful. That wound represents a patterning within what I call the emotional blueprint. And within that wound, there's a belief system that the wound is the truth, that on some level, perhaps that's who you are. And from what I've discovered and countless clients have discovered is that this couldn't be anything further from the truth. Because the truth is that these patterns that we run are not who we are. They are genetically imprinted within the genes and DNA of our physical body. And so as long as we're holding this wound, the child remains captive. There may be very little expression for this part of self. And what I have found over and over again with this work is that the innocence of that inner child has never been lost. The enthusiasm, the excitement, the wonder of that inner child. Think back to your childhood in the early years. Perhaps you hadn't been triggered into the genetic impact of your emotional blueprint. You may have felt loved and supported and so excited about life. I look at my little granddaughter who's under a year and oh my gosh, the innocence, the excitement, the wonder that she expresses every single day. And I know there's countless children that you have experienced, or your own children, and you remember that experience of seeing that innocence. And so somewhere along the line, the innocence is perhaps lost. It's what I call the activation period of the emotional blueprint, moving from innocence into this feeling of division within ourselves. And so by tapping in to the inner child, recognizing these patterns, and I'll be releasing more videos under my emotional blueprint video series to explain this further. But for now, it's understanding that this child is looking for freedom. This child is looking for freedom of expression, freedom of creativity, freedom of being a child. And so I'd like to walk you through a meditation today that represents this phenomena of meeting up with your inner child. And when that happens, it's truly amazing. Because in this male-dominated world, this go-go world, we very, very oftentimes sidestep that part of ourselves that I feel is the foundation of the creativity that will link you to who you really are. So I'd like you to close your eyes now and just go into your breath as I've taught you. Tummy out, breathe into your abdomen, breathe way up over your crown, connecting with the Earth Star, your very own blue star. This is the star that connects you to your soul star, your higher self realm. And on the out breath, bring your energy down through your legs and feet and connect deeply with the earth. Feel the roots growing from your feet deep into the core of the earth. And now breathe into your heart. And as you're breathing into your heart, imagine your heart breathing along with you. As you're bringing awareness to your heart, the heart naturally begins to expand. Now become the artist and paint on the canvas within your heart, the landscape of your heart. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Imagine and feel the electricity of the colors and energy around you in this landscape. Now find yourself walking through the landscape. And as you're on your journey within this landscape, you look up and there's a bench there. It's a perfect medium. It's the perfect bench for your nature heart landscape. Fit it into the landscape. And as you get closer, you notice that there's a tiny little child sitting on this bench. And as you get even closer, you recognize that this is you, whatever age you were at as a child. And so you approach the bench and you sit down beside this little child, this little girl or boy. And she or he looks up at you. And now I want you to look deep into the eyes of this child and feel what this child may be holding, indeed from your past. And perhaps you're realizing that you've abandoned this child. You've left this child, and this child has been alone all this time within your heart. This little cavern within your heart that's darker than the rest of your heart. And there's some pain there. There may be some emotional pain. And so I'd like for you to take a moment to see yourself interacting with this part of yourself. Continue breathing deeply and get a sense, what is my relationship with this child? Do I know her? Do I know him? Just stay still for a bit. And so I want you to carry this feeling back with you now, this experience that you've had, and simply be the observer of it as you begin to breathe several deep breaths and bringing yourself back now to this reality. And whatever this feeling is that you have is perfect for you right here and now. And so just be with this now. Be the observer of your feelings. And we will return to this in the next video. And until then, thank you very much for coming. And I look forward to connecting with you next time. Thank you so much.